Hello and welcome to Rosberry Crafts, my YouTube channel where I share all my crafty adventures. Today is January the 8th, 2023, and this is episode 43. My name is Roz and I live in Lake Country, British Columbia, Canada, where I live with my husband and my two kids who are 12 and 11. I'd like to say welcome to all you new subscribers and thank you very much for coming back to all my returning subscribers. And if you haven't liked or subscribed on this video yet, you should do that now. Or wait till the end, but you should do that. Today for you, I have works in progress, events, and some chatter. Let's get started, shall we? Works in progress. I did want to briefly mention that usually I have a finished objects section before this, but instead of finishing anything like I had hoped to do, I started all of the things. So I have no finished objects for you today. I am not wearing a hand knit sweater. This is actually one that I bought from Mark's Warehouse, and it's like a cotton blended acrylic thing, but it is comfortable and warm. The sleeves are too short. The bottom is kind of weird, so it's kind of like it's nice enough to wear, but it's kind of an around the house sweater. So it was kind of my trial of that, of the circular yoke, and I do like this fit at the top. It's just the bottom, it kind of does this and I do this. So it always kind of snugs up and sits weird. Anyway, when knitting my own sweater, I will not allow it to do that. So anyway, moving on from what I am not wearing, I have been wearing hand knit socks all week and I have worn some of my other knits, but just today I'm not. So there we go. That's what you get. We will move on to whips because there are a lot of them. A lot. The first one I'm going to talk about is my hinterland. I have made some real progress on this one. It probably doesn't look that much different, but I put in, where is it now? I put in a marker when I started knitting this after last episode, and I have knit all of that. So that is more than 2 inches, I would say. So yes, making some good progress. Oh, don't pull the stitches off. I need my stitch stoppers on this one, but made some good progress on this. So I am very happy. This is the Hinterland pattern by Jennifer Steinglass, and it is a colorwork yoke from the top down. So you have some kind of stars and some trees, and I believe this is supposed to be like a reflection in the water. I'm not quite sure, but it is a beautiful pattern. And I don't have any of the sleeves done yet, but I will keep continuing working on this. I have this ball attached right now. I debated doing some helical knitting in case there's any slight difference between the shades. However, this is a cascade wool, and that is a big box thing that dyed over and over again. So it's possible there's some slight variation, but I'm going to assume that they're all the same. So I'm just going to keep going, because if I have to do helical knitting, that's going to slow me down even more. I know it's the same amount of stitches, but just that fact of that, I won't be able to do it as like in the dark knitting or when I'm in a meeting knitting, and that will slow me down and I won't get this done. So I am just going to hope that all colors are the same. They are the same dye lot number, so they should be the same. Anyway, this is Cascade 220 fingering, and it is more of a light fingering weight. And this color is the dark plum, and this is the buff. Did I get it right this time? Oh, I got it right. If you watched my previous podcast, you know that I cannot get this color right, but it is an off-white. It's like a warm gray, creamy gray. So yeah, so when I finish this ball of the plum, I am probably going to pick up and knit the sleeves, because I don't like knitting the sleeves when I have a whole body of a sweater that I'm turning and flipping and turning and flipping. So I'm just going to finish as much of this ball as I can, and then I will do the sleeves. probably one at a time. Sometimes I do them two at a time. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. But the sleeves are done just in plain all the way down to the cuff before you do a bit more color work and then the ribbing on the cuff. So I do have quite a fair, I have long arms, so I have quite a fair bit of just plain rounding around knitting with a bit of decreasing to get done before I get on the sleeves. But yes, I'm very excited about all of that. Yeah, I'm just loving working on it, having it on my lap, staring at it. So that is awesome. And I will stop talking about that and move on to my next work in progress. I have worked a little bit on Mike's socks. So I really should put a progress keeper in this one just so that I can actually keep track of it, because I do really want to finish them, although he has not been wearing them as much lately, so maybe I don't have a rush on this. But this is the second sock. I haven't finished the third one, or the first one yet, but I do have most of it done. So there's the foot, and he likes a tall leg. I just want to make sure that I start the ribbing at the same spot and that there's the same amount of leg on each of the socks so they match. I split the ball, but with the patterning stuff, it doesn't work out exactly at the 50 grams. So I just want to make sure that this one gets to the same point, and then I can do the ribbing on both of them, and then all will be well. So yeah, I'm knitting these concurrently instead of two at a time like I normally do, which is odd for me. I don't know why I did that. I just felt like it, so I did it. The pattern that I'm using for these is vanilla reversed, and it makes this really cool heel that's kind of ribbed on the back. He likes the fit of these. It gives him enough, he has a high arch, so it gives him enough space in there. And then on the top of the foot and all the way around on the leg, I do a 3x1 rib instead of stockinette. And then I do a 1x1 rib on the cuff at the very top of the sock. And trying to tuck that all back in. So many needles. Yeah, so, and that yarn is a Rico Designs Superba print. And I think they just have numbers, so it's a self-patterning sock yarn. So it is really cool, and we will see how he does with those. I haven't knit a lot on them, just a little bit, so we will move on to the next project. All right, next up I have the Love Note, and it's looking so good. So last week, or I guess last week now, because it's Sunday, so it's last week, I was able to get it on my mother-in-law, so she tried it on. The fit is good. It decreased enough, and now I've knit a little bit, and now I'm going to increase again. She's very much hourglass shaped, and she doesn't like things too loose in the middle. She likes them a little more fitted. So I did do decreases under the arm, and now I'm going to do some increases to go back out. And we took all the measurements, so I know exactly how many more inches to knit the sleeves, how many more inches to knit the body. I put a marker in right there, that pink one. So we need a certain amount, I think it's not 8 or 9 inches from that point. That will be the end of the sweater, and 12 inches on the sleeves. So we'll factor all that in. And then I've got to knit the band at the top as well for the neck. And yeah, but it is coming along nicely. This pattern is the Love Note by Tin Can Knits. It's just Love Note. It will be linked down below along with everything else that I talk about in this video. As I say at some point every time. And the yarn that I'm using for this one is Loops and Thread in their, brushed swirl. And it's actually a discontinued yarn, but I was able to find some on a D-stash that is the perfect amount to make the sweater. And it's this slate. So it's like a dark gray with these light gray speckles. And it's not really showing up on the camera, but it is like super fuzzy. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's a good layer of fuzz, and as you wash it, it gets more fuzzy. And it is acrylic, so she'll be able to wash it in her washing machine, which is nice when you're gifting knits. Not that she wouldn't hand wash, she would absolutely hand wash. She's also a knitter, but it's kind of nice, especially for things that you're going to wear out to a restaurant or whatever. You never know what gets spilled or anything like that. So I think that's all I'm going to say about the love note. That's kind of my main focus project at the moment. I really want to get some good progress on that one. All right. I think now we are on to the new projects. So here we go. So on January 1st, I had quite a bit of time in the day to just relax and hang out. And I watched some YouTube lives and stuff, and I cast on a bunch of new things. It doesn't look like much, but this is the Amethyst Triangle Shawl by Undeniable Glitter, who is Alyssa. So yeah, it's a pretty straightforward triangle shawl pattern. It does have the elongated tips on it, so you increase every time on the edges and every other row in the middle, so you get a nice triangle in the front, but then you get long, it gets longer, and then it's easier to wrap and stay on you. So yeah. And this color, this is Knit Pick Stroll in the hand-painted tonals. And this is what the ball looks like. It's showing up really dark on camera. It's not quite that dark. It is definitely dark and light, but it's not that dark, I wouldn't say. Well, maybe it is. So it's Knit Pick's Stroll Fingering in the Pansy Tonal colorway. It is a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 100-gram skein, 462 yards. Machine wash, tumble dry, low. So yeah, so I just made a little bit of progress on that. Yeah, it's basically garter and eyelet rows at certain intervals, and I think this will be a really straightforward knit once I get the pattern down a little bit more. But yeah, so there is that one. And next up, I don't know if this was the order I cast them on in, but this is the order that they are in my project page. So next up is something that I have been talking about casting on for a long time. This is the Colorful Geometry Loop Cowl by Petra Makova. I don't know. It'll be here. Oh dear. So it's hard there. You can see it kind of. So it's got these triangles of garter and stockinette. And it is knit on the bias. So you get kind of, so it's going to sit like this. So you get diagonal stripes on there. So yeah. Oh, it looks so good on camera. It's rolling because it's going to be connected in the round. You graft it the other end together and then you get a looped cowl. Okay, so that's the pattern. The yarn is my Advent from Ginger Snap That for 2021. So that's last year's, so a whole year old. And obviously I'm starting with the purples and pinks here. This is showing up white, but it is a very, very light pink with some crazy speckles in it. It's hard to see. There's some orange speckles. You can't really see them, but there are some like hot pink and hot orange speckles. And so that is the last, maybe you can see it better in here. It is a pink. Oh yeah, there, you can see there's some crazy speckles in there. And from there, we are moving on to these colors. So I don't use the whole cake. I'm just using a couple grams on each color. Basically, I'm doing one pattern repeat for every day. So that will be 24 stripes in this cowl, and then you graft it together. And I think that'll be just perfect. And yeah, so that is where I'm at so far. Again, this is Ginger Snap That in her Zest Fingering Advents. So yeah. So that is that one, coming along nicely. Next up is an Advent hat pattern. And I know I talked about this one during Vlogmas when I did kind of like recap of my top 10 patterns that I would possibly use for Advents from last year and this year's advents, and the previous one, the geometry cowl, is one of those, and the other one is a pattern by my friend Carla, and it is the Home for the Holidays, A Knitter's Advent by Carla Ray. And yeah, it's very exciting. It is a hat, and I did the tubular cast on. So that is the cast on edge there. Helps if I hold it towards the camera. So yeah, it just looks like the knitting just starts. But yeah, we'll see. It's a little tight, the cast on edge. Like if you, it doesn't quite stretch like that stretches more, but we'll see once I get into a bit more of it. Maybe I'll put it on some try it on tubing and put it on my head. I'm sure if it doesn't fit me, it will fit somebody, and then I have tons of leftovers. I can make myself one too with different numbers, or however it needs to work out, different needle, I'm not sure. But yeah, so I did the tubular cast on. So I did the tubular cast on, and the first kind of row, well, the first few rows, I don't know, feels like days ago, in just the purple, which is the first color. And then I'm holding, so you hold like the day 1 and day 2 together and knit until you run out of day 1, and you kind of have them offset. So you kind of knit half of day 1, and then you knit with day 1 and day 2 until you run out of day 1, and then you replace that with day 3. And then you replace it with day 4, and so on. So you get this marled effect across. I think it will look really cool with the colors from that advent, because they were a fade through a rainbow from red to purple, which kind of connect back to each other. So I think it will look really cool. And yeah, so I've just been working away on that. I've been winding off 3 grams after I finish the color in the cowl. I wind off 3 grams and put it in this bag, and then the leftovers are being put elsewhere so I can do something else with them. So that is my plan. I'm quite enjoying that. So far it's just 1 by 1 ribbing, and then it will, once we change from the brim, it'll just be round and round knitting. So it should be very quick and easy and straightforward, other than you have to change colors when you run out. But that'll be okay. So let's move on to my next project. And this is something that I have been dreaming about knitting for a while. And I got this yarn specifically when I saw it. So you won't, it's really hard to see because it's so small right now, but it is a lace shawl. One of the first classes that I took when I moved up here from Vancouver at Ilona Knitting was a lace shawl class. I think it was called the flower basket shawl or the basket flower shawl. I'm not sure. Anyway, I never finished it. I picked the entirely wrong yarn for it. And anyway, it was like a whole thing. I also took a sock class with them, and I made some DK kind of worsted weight socks that totally didn't fit me. They were like stiff as a board, but I learned a lot from both of those classes, and it made me a much more proficient knitter, and put me in with some other people that knit, and we kind of created a little knit group, which we don't meet in person very much anymore, but I still chat with lots of those people online. So always beneficial to take some classes if you have an LYS nearby. But yeah, so I haven't knit like a full lace shawl before. Now this isn't, so there's 2 different types of, there's knitted lace and lace knitting. I don't remember which one is which, but this one is pattern on one side, just purl back on the other side. So at least you get a rest row in there. Yeah, so let's talk about the details. This is the Stormborn Shawl by Kirsten Aschbaugh Helmrich. That is a name. That's a name and a half there. And I am using Fireweed Fiber Co. in her Sparkling Sock. And this is a one-of-a-kind skein, which I have 2 of, to make this lace shawl so that it can be huge and delicate and beautiful. So yeah, I don't know if it was something she was trying or something that didn't go as planned, but yeah, it is beautiful. You can see, so it's got like a gray base to it, and then it's got these like hot pink, medium pink, dark purple kind of blips to it. So hopefully the pattern doesn't get too lost in the color changes, but it is mostly gray, so I think a lot of it will be visible that way. So yeah, that's the Stormborn shawl. And just looking, I think I have the one final project to show you. So while my mother-in-law was here trying on her sweater, the Love Note that I already showed you, my father-in-law mentioned that he needed a new hat. So I've made him a few, and I think my mother-in-law's made him one or two as well. But he was really envious of the length that Cooper's Minecraft toque is. And because all of his are like a kind of tighter fitting beanie, and he wanted something with a bit more substance to it. Something that, you know, he could roll it up a couple times if he was really cold, or he could have it a little more loosey-goosey. And so while he was here, I got him to look through the yarn stash, well, on this side, because I didn't want to knit a fingering weight hat. Not that I wouldn't, I just think he wants it for like skiing and stuff like that. So he needs something with a bit more heft to it. And he picked out this. So this is, you might recognize this because I knit a sweater out of this in November. This is the Patons Classic Wool in the dark gray marl. Is that what it's called? Patons Classic Wool, yeah. And it's a worsted weight, and it is marled, so you get this kind of effect to it. So it's gray and white. You know, and it's just 1 by 1 ribbing at this point. But I am using the numbers from the crafting table toque pattern from Cozy Up Knits. This was a pattern I test knit for them more than a year ago. And so there's 3 styles of toque in this pattern. And it was based, the names came from the colorways that were done for the test knits that were Minecraft colors, and crafting table is something you can do in Minecraft. Anyway, so yeah, so anyway, he really liked the length of that. I'm not going to put the creeper face that is in Cooper's. I am just going to do stockinette in the round, but he really liked the style of that, so I'm going to use the basics from that and but do it in this yarn. So that is working up beautifully, and that is my on-the-go knitting because it's just basic, just going around. I can stop and start anytime. And I do have one of my stitch stoppers on there right now. I don't know if you can see that. It's hard to see. But yeah, it's just like these little rubber bits. Yeah, so that is working out good, and it's in my purse. And then whenever I'm waiting for kids or whatever, Starbucks order, whatever, I can just get in a few rounds, and then that will be done in no time, I'm sure. So that is it for my works in progress, and we will move on to events. The first event I wanted to talk about is the pigskin party, and that is coming to a close in a month from now, basically. Beginning of February. I'm not exactly sure of the date, but I will link to it down below. It is from the Down Cellar Studio podcast, and she has all of that information on her website. She also has a Ravelry group and all of that kind of stuff too, but it's available on the website. You can see all that information. It is not too late to join if you want to join, and it basically, whatever you knit between the start of the football season and the Super Bowl, she puts all those specific dates up there. You can enter those for prizes. There's different kind of categories on how many points you get for each project, if it's smaller or bigger, and there's like blitz projects and all sorts of stuff. But that's the gist of it. And so basically anything that I have started in mid-September, I'm going to focus on finishing those for that so that I can count those. Some of these projects, like the Stormborn shawl, it's a little more complicated. There is no way I'm going to finish that. Well, not no way, but it's highly likely that I will not finish that by the beginning of February, so I'm not even going to try for that. But something like the toque that I'm knitting, I think I could definitely finish. So that will be good there, or the cowl even, because I'm making decent progress on that one. Yeah, so that's the pigskin party that is coming to a close soon, and they're doing their last monthly challenge right now because, of course, early February, there's not really enough time to do like a whole challenge in it. So yeah, so check that out if you're interested in that one. Next up is the amethyst shawl that I am knitting. I'm entering that in the Northern Knits Anniversary Make-Along. And so their anniversary, this is year 6 they're celebrating. And then they look up what the traditional modern would be if you were married for that long. So I think it's iron and candy, and then there's a jewel, which is amethyst. So I went with the amethyst because I really like that pattern, and it's purple, which could be classified as amethyst. So it's like double in that category. So that started January 1st and it goes to March 31st. So that's plenty of time to knit a project, but you should definitely check them out if you're interested in that. They are also Canadian. They live in the middle of Canada, but a nice duo. They talk about video games and reading and other stuff too. So I quite enjoy that podcast and love that knit along. The Hinterland was my entry for last year and I did not finish it. Even the color work I didn't finish in that time frame. So this one is much more doable though. So that is that one. Next up, I'm participating in the Imagine Knitting Cal, and that is hosted by Imagine Landscapes. They have an audio podcast, and then once a month they do a live video on YouTube, just so that people can kind of see more of their projects. Sometimes an audio podcast, even if you take pictures and stuff, you don't really get the same idea as a video. So anyway, so that's what they do. They are sisters. They are also Canadian and live in the middle of Canada as well. And Imagine Landscapes, Sarah Shira is the one that designed the gnomes that I was knitting last year as well. So I am entering the Stormborn shawl in that cal because this is something that I have been imagine knitting for a long time. So I've been dreaming of it and now it is coming to fruition. So that is what I'm entering in that cal. And then I have one more cal that I am participating in. It is in a new podcast, although I've been friends on Instagram with them for a while, and one of the girls, and then I started watching their podcast. They just have 4 episodes out, but they are pretty hilarious. I would love to go on a knitting treat with them because I feel like we would just talk the whole time and it would be great. Anyway, the cal is, or the YouTube channel is We Have Yarn for That, and the cal is the birthday make along. And they have a Discord server with all the details on it. If you're interested in that, that's all linked from their YouTube and all that kind of stuff. All that good stuff. But my hinterland, so basically anything that you haven't knit on in a long time, I can't remember how long it is, but starting January 1st, you pick it up and you work on it and you try to finish it by the end of February. I have no idea if this is possible, but I am going to try my hardest to finish that sweater. And so I'm going to participate in that cal. It's just to motivate you to finish things that have been sitting for a long time. So that is the point of all of that. And that's probably enough for the events section. I have nothing else yarny to talk about, although I will have some stuff fairly soon in the stash enhancement. We will see. And if you're not interested in my life chatter, then we will see you next week. And if you are, get ready for chatter. For chatter this week, I just have a couple things. My goals for the year, I've started actually updating them. So on Fridays when I normally record, I know today is Sunday, but normally I'm going to record on Fridays, and I will update all of my goals every Friday, and then that gives me the weekend to kind of catch up on any that I've missed during the week, which is kind of a good balance. For me, Fridays tend to be just like a hangout and movie night at our house, so gives me a bit of downtime. And often we do like pizza for dinner and then, just very chill. So that'll be a good chance for me to kind of catch up on all of those things. Sunday nights we tend to play D&D, so that's not always a good time for me to catch up on that. And so that's the goals. I've been making some progress, some things not so much. I haven't done any walks yet this year, and I'm very sad about that, but my treadmill should be coming this week, so I'm going to get caught up on that. And so that'll be good. My goals are coming along nicely, other than I've started a million projects, but that wasn't not a goal. But my goal is to complete projects and move that yarn out of my stash. I don't consider that yarn done and out until the project is finished. So it's finished the knitting or crocheting, the ends are woven in, it's been washed, and it can be worn. That's when it is out of my stash. But goals are coming along nicely, and I'm planning every first podcast of the month, I will go through a more detailed update on any of those things. If I do it every week, it's just going to be too much, but I am keeping track myself every week. Otherwise, I'll forget everything. For books this past week, I finished Allegiant by Veronica Roth. That is the third one in the series, and there's a couple novellas along with the series, which I've got on hold at the library, so maybe we'll read those in a future week. So that's book number 1. And book number 2 is Diamond Fire by Ilona Andrews. And so that is 2 books out of my 100 for the year. So that's feeling pretty good. Diamond Fire was a novella in that series, but I'm still counting it because it's still a book. So that is good. And I read that one on my Kobo as well. Allegiant, I listened to. Diamond Fire, I read. So those are the 2 that I finished last week. And and I've got 2 books on the go right now as well. So 3 technically. Oh. Anyway, So what else have I been up to? We had New Year's Eve since the last episode. We had a super fun time at our friend's house, and there was chatting and dance parties and celebrations and just lots of fun. The kids had fun. We all had fun. It was good. It was good. Time was had by all. And it was also Mike's birthday last week, and we took his parents out to Montana's for dinner with us. So we haven't been out for dinner, I think the 6 of us, in a very long time. We tend to go to each other's houses instead of going out for dinner. So it was a really nice change to go out for dinner. We just had a really nice time, and I love Montana's. It's just a chillax restaurant. Mike was really craving barbecue, so that's where we went. And what else did we do? We went sledding up Postal. I didn't sled. That sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. But we sat around, the adults sat around the fire, and the kids sled down the hill and build forts and do whatever they want in the snow. We stayed and had dinner, and that was really nice. I really needed that day out in nature, and it turned out to be about 4 hours, and it wasn't that cold. It was like -1, -2, so it was really a reasonable temperature, especially with the fire, and it wasn't -25 or anything. But I really needed that day out in nature. That is something that really recharges me, and just getting the fresh air and being around trees, and it was so good. And then just recently, we purchased a new car, and I will put a picture in. So we got a Toyota Highlander. It is for Mike. It's for him to drive to and from work every day, but it means that his little car, the Leaf that we have, is now my car. So, which we also have the truck. But the truck is, getting up there in kilometers, and we want to make sure that it's in good working order. So and it's harder to drive around the city. So now we have 2 cars plus the haul vehicle, right? So that is the current plan. And so now I have my own little car to drive around, and Mike is very excited and very happy with his new Toyota Highlander. We've only had it for 2 days, so, but he's already, set up the satellite radio and the Bluetooth settings and all the you can program all this. So I don't know. He's just happy as a clam out in his new car, which is awesome because he drives to and from work every day. I work from home, so it's really important for him to be comfortable on that drive, and now he will be. So I think that is everything for this episode, and we will see you guys next time. Bye! Tragedy, I ran out of red rose tea. I know, right?